Hey buddy, you might want to check your fly. Looks like you've got a dangling modifier. Hello WordNerds, it is Wednesday, April 16th, 2014, and today on Wordplay Wednesday, by popular demand, I am talking about modifiers, misplaced modifiers, dangling modifiers, and hopefully if you pay attention, this will help you a lot with understanding modifiers because they're not so scary. Let's start simple. What in the world is a modifier? Okay, two things. One, don't scream at me. Two, mind the attitude? Look, I know modifiers seem scary, but they're really simple. The definition is right in the word itself. A modifier modifies another word. A modifier adds detail and adds some kind of new depth to the sentence. It's an adjective that can be a word or a phrase, and it doesn't take a lot to know how to use them, so let me explain it to you a little bit better. By examples! Here's where the fun comes in. These examples are all going to be Frozen themed. Have you seen Frozen? Because I have. Kristoff Hans. So the first modifier we're going to talk about is almost. Almost is a one-word modifier. You'll see this one commonly. So let's give two examples of how just simply moving this word from one end to another end of a sentence can change its entire meaning. Elsa almost freezes the entire town. Or, Elsa freezes almost the entire town. In the first sentence, Elsa does not freeze the entire town. She comes close to freezing it, maybe there's a slight frost, but she stops herself and does not freeze the entire town.
Let it go, let it go.
In the second sentence, Elsa does freeze quite a lot of the town. In fact, she nearly freezes all of it.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
Almost in the first sentence is modifying how close she came to freezing the town. Pretty dang close. In the second sentence, it is modifying how much of the town she is frozen. Almost all of it. So isn't it interesting how just sliding it a little bit further down the sentence can change the meaning entirely? That's why you've got to be careful with modifiers. Simply slipping up of where you put it can mean something completely different and maybe something you weren't intending to say. So now let's talk about modifying phrases and how you can so easily misplace them. Here's an example of a misplaced modifier. Listen closely to see if you can tell what is wrong. Covered in moss, Kristoff has a huge family. You hear what's wrong with that? Covered in moss is at the beginning of the sentence, and it is modifying Kristoff, who is not covered in moss. His family is covered in moss, though, so if we move this modifier later in the sentence, Kristoff has a large family covered in moss. It makes perfect sense. Make sure we know who is covered in moss, because we don't want it to be Kristoff. Or do we?
So he's a bit of a fixer-upper, so he's got a few flaws.
How about another example? This time, the misplaced modifier will be at the end of the sentence. Olaf hugs Anna, melting in front of the fire. Who's melting now? Anna? Because the way the modifier phrases this, it sounds like Anna is the one who is sitting in front of that fire, melting into a puddle. But she's not the snowman in this situation, she is a human, and more times than not, humans do not melt in front of a fireplace. So let's take this modifier, put it at the beginning of the sentence, and have it all make sense. Melting in front of the fire, Olaf gives Anna a hug.
You wanna build a snowman?
Sometimes changing the place of your modifier simply isn't enough. Just because it's misplaced at the front or dangling off the end of the sentence like a hiker falling off a mountain does not mean you can save the situation by just swapping its positions. Sometimes you have to add additional words or punctuation, but even this isn't that hard. So in the sentence, sailing across the ocean, the waves were tumultuous. Sailing across the ocean is a misplaced modifier. It's modifying the waves. The waves can't be sailing. Anna and Elsa's parents are the ones sailing, or a ship is sailing. So to make this sentence make sense, we have to add people or a ship, something that would be sailing across tumultuous waves, and we have to add some punctuation. So how would I fix this sentence? It would go from sailing across the ocean, the waves were tumultuous, to sailing across the ocean, the boat was thrown about by the tumultuous waves. A simple rewrite, and it makes sense and doesn't hurt my head trying to think about how waves would be sailing across an ocean. Sounds like some kind of existential question. Can waves sail across themselves? That's all I have for you word nerds this week. So hopefully all of this makes sense to you. I promise modifiers aren't that hard to put in the right place, but when they get misplaced or when they're dangling, make sure to correct them and put them in their proper place by adding punctuation, shifting their location, or adding some words. If you have any questions at all, shoot them to me in the comments. I'll try to read them all and answer them as best as I can. If you enjoyed this video or learned something or care for me to do more grammar videos, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you are new to the Word Nerds. Also, I hope my balloons aren't distracting back there. I'd give you an explanation, but I think you can come up with one of your own that's probably much more interesting. Or is it? We are not having a live chat this Sunday, and I will miss you guys terribly, but it's Easter. More importantly for me, though, it is finals week, and oh man, do I have a lot of stuff to get done. Wish me luck. I'm so tired. I love you, nerds, and I will see you next Tuesday. Dangling off the end like a person falling from a mountain. Sometimes you have to add additional words, or what's the things called when the punctuation.